We are continuing to follow the latest out of Los Angeles, where California Governor Gavin Newsom is now saying that he will file a lawsuit against the Trump administration for deploying National Guard troops without his request. It's a move he is slamming as, quote, unconstitutional.
Donald Trump has created the conditions you see on your TV tonight. He's exacerbated the conditions. He's, lit the proverbial match. He's putting fuel on this fire ever since he announced he was taking over the National Guard. An illegal act, an immoral act, an unconstitutional act.
And for more on this, we're joined now by Axios senior politics reporter Mark Caputo. Mark, is the governor right?
I don't know. I'm not a constitutional scholar nor expert, and the courts will decide that issue.
So how has what we've seen this weekend from President Trump how has it played into the larger political agenda of his?
Well, I would imagine both Newsom and Trump have their own political agendas, and so far the Trump White House, which is what I cover, thinks that this is the fight that they wanted. Not sure what Gavin Newsom thinks, but I doubt he's acting the way he is without thinking it's a winning hand for him. For Trump, he's having some trouble passing his major tax cut and immigration policy bill.
Let's go live now to Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass. Hi, Mayor. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi.
Hi. So
Thank
what
you
are
for
you and your police force? I know how busy you are preparing for the hours ahead. What are you expecting on that front?
Well, I just have to say that if you dial back time and go to Friday, if immigration raids had not happened here, we would not have the disorder that went on last night. I will tell you that it is peaceful now, but we do not know where and when the next raids will be. That is the concern, because people in the city have a rapid response network. If they see ICE, they go out and they protest. And so it's just a recipe for pandemonium that is completely unnecessary. Nothing was happening here. Los Angeles was peaceful before Friday. When we find out when and where the other raids are going to happen, that will determine how the police respond.
Mayor Bass, it's Wolf Blitzer here in the Situation Room as well. The state of California, as you well know, is expected to file a formal lawsuit over President Trump's deployment of the National Guard, perhaps as early as today. Your own police chief says the level of violence he's seeing in Los Angeles is, quote, disgusting. So why not welcome more boots on the ground?
Well, no, I think the issue here is state power and state sovereignty. And so we do not believe, and what the governor is doing is separate from what's happening in the city. But what was the reason that the president had to take the power from the governor and federalize the National Guard? The night before this action was taken, there was a protest that got a little unruly. Late at night, it was 100 people. 27 people were arrested. There wasn't a reason for this. That is the concern. And if there was, the way it happens traditionally is that requests are made on the local level of the governor to send National Guard troops. No request came from the city of Los Angeles. What has happened now is an entirely different situation.
You know, and speaking of now, there are also, about 500 active duty U.S. Marines over at Camp Pendleton, not too far away, awaiting possible orders to mobilize. Governor Newsom has said that, let me just point out, Mayor, Governor Newsom has said that President Trump is, quote, putting fuel on the fire. And you've called the deployment of National Guard troops to your city a chaotic escalation. Why is this an escalation?
Well, again, it's an escalation that didn't have to happen. Why were there raids? You know, we had been told that he was going to go after violent criminals. It wasn't a drug den. It was a Home Depot. It was places where people are working. So what was the point of doing this? And then knowing that in a city like Los Angeles, and we had talked about this for a long time, that has a very sophisticated, long-term immigrant rights organizations and institutions, that if these random raids were going to happen, then there was going to be the danger of a backlash. And you add on to that the National Guard, and it felt like fuel for a fire that was unnecessary.
Given the point where it has escalated to, do you think the National Guard is needed now?
No, I don't think the National Guard is needed now. Things in LA are calm. I will tell you that I'm saddened by the extent of the vandalism in the form of graffiti all through the downtown area. But it is important for people to know that even in downtown, this is isolated to a few streets. This is not citywide civil unrest taking place in Los Angeles. A few streets downtown, it looks horrible. People committed crimes. It is absolutely unacceptable. And those people that set cars on fire or did other forms of vandalism will be sought to be arrested and prosecuted. This is not the way to promote a cause like immigrant rights.
All right, I want to play some sound from Police Chief Jim McDonnell. Let's listen.
This violence that I've seen is disgusting. It's escalated now since the beginning of this incident. What we saw the first night was bad. What we've seen subsequent to that is getting increasingly worse and more violent. Tonight we had individuals out there shooting commercial-grade fireworks at our officers. That can kill you. And we have adapted our tactics to be able to have a chance to be able to take these people into custody and to be able to hold them accountable. We are overwhelmed as far as the number of people out there engaged in this type of activity.
So, you know, you had officers injured. We also heard Police Chief McDonnell talk about officers being targeted with Molotov cocktails, fireworks, rocks, other projectiles. He has also said that, you know, he's overwhelmed by the number of protesters. What are you doing as mayor to make sure your police force has what it needs right now?
Well, first of all, I'm completely in sync with the police chief. And let me just add that some people might think because they don't get arrested right on the spot that they've gotten away with something. And the message that I would send is that there's tons of videotape, and people who didn't get arrested today for committing violent acts don't plan on the fact that you get off, because you can be arrested in the next few days and next few weeks. So it is completely unacceptable, and those people that commit crimes will be arrested and prosecuted. I am completely in alignment with that. I know that when help is needed, that the police chief will call on that help, mutual aid from other cities or from the sheriff's department when that is needed. But I hope that it is not needed anymore. The rage should stop, especially on people's workplaces. The impact that that can have on our local economy. We are a city of immigrants. And I worry about the people who were detained on Friday, whose families still have not been able to reach out to them. The lawyers have not been able to go in and deal with their clients. This is unprecedented. This has not happened before. And so, again, you want to talk about chaos? Well, this is what contributes to chaos. Policies like that.
There are due process concerns, certainly. But back to what we just heard from the LAPD chief, you said that you're totally in sync with the police chief. He is saying that he's overwhelmed, that his forces are overwhelmed. What more do you need to hear from him to bring in more resources, to bring him the support that he is saying he needs?
Well, what I was saying is that the support he has called on, and he has received that support from the sheriff's department and from other police departments. And so I do not believe that he was describing a situation where we cannot bring it under control here. I think you should talk to him a little bit further. But what we are seeing, for example, there's nothing happening on our streets now. On Saturday, when this decision was being contemplated, there was nothing happening on our streets. As I mentioned, that evening, there was a protest that got out of hand. It was a protest of 100 people. None of that warrants federal intervention, and that's my point.
Right, but you also acknowledge that you don't know if there's going to be other immigration raids in the city.
Right.
So, I mean, that raises the question, what are you doing to prepare for that potential scenario? There could be more violence ahead.
Well, you know what? It's a very difficult thing to plan. We have 88 cities in our county. The raids could take place anywhere. They don't have to take place in Los Angeles. For example, the unrest that you saw on Saturday was happening in an adjacent city. It wasn't Los Angeles. It was the city of Paramount. So it's very difficult to prepare for something when you have absolutely no idea when and where it's going to take place.
You know, Mayor, the Trump border czar, Tom Homan, has now walked back some comments suggesting that you or Governor Newsom, for that matter, could face arrest if you obstruct federal authorities. How do you respond to Homan, and do you have any concerns potentially about being arrested?
No, I'm not concerned about being arrested, and I can't imagine an opportunity. I can't imagine a situation where I am going to interfere with federal agents. So it was something that was inappropriate to say. And what I am going to focus on is bringing our city together. We cannot allow ourselves to be divided.
I don't want to lose sight of the fact that the President of the United States just called for the arrest of the sitting governor of California. I mean, Trump, you tend to brush things off when he said it, but he did say, I would arrest the governor of California. We'll see ultimately where this comes down to. But this fight between California and the White House has been escalating, whether it's just been on this. But there's so much at stake for California. There's billions of dollars of federal money that goes to California. You have reconstruction that needs to happen because of all the devastating wildfires that happened last year. That money still has not been even requested by the White House. So many big questions remain, but that was a pretty remarkable
No, I'm glad
moment.
you underscored that. No, it is a very, very important point. It's hard to figure out what to sort of dig in on, the use of the word insurrection or the fact that he said, sure, my border czar should maybe go and arrest the governor of California.
Yeah. And I mean, to his point, it is kind of what Gavin Newsom wants. Obviously,
He
nobody
doesn't want
wants
to be arrested.
Nobody wants to be arrested. But I think if we're looking, I mean, this is a very serious issue, and we should not minimize the fact that these are people's lives. These are people's lives who are caught up in the system. But if you look to 2028, as political journalists do, Gavin Newsom is one of the Democrats who are looming large over the issue of who is going to run to take on who else runs for the Republican side of the race. And so Gavin Newsom is making himself available to TV networks as serious things are happening. And
he's going quiet. He's falling down plane stairs. He's stumbling, medically declining, cognitively declining, getting other people to do his dirty work. Who knows? Remember, Elon was shadow president. Now, who is it? Tom Homan, Kirsty Noem, Stephen Miller. Who's shadow president now? No one knows. But the point is, as the protesters stand up to him, he's showing his weakness. Again, he's united the Democratic Party. He has. Again, I'm not a fan of Newsom. I'm not. But my God, I'm standing shoulder to shoulder with him today. And I know many of you are. I know some of you like him. Some of you don't like him. Some of you are, he's fine, I guess, right? Like, there's a spectrum. But every non-MAGA is with him today. Every non-MAGA is with Karen Bass today. Every non-MAGA is with the protesters on the ground today. Despite differences in philosophy and tactics, there's a recognition that this is a moment to stand against Trump. So as the protesters inspire, I'm going to be clear, not just progressive Americans, but the world. People are watching this around the world. And I'm going to be honest, as a Canadian, most of what we've been watching you guys for the last, since November, hasn't been very flattering, right? We've been mostly looking at the United States with shock, horror, disgust, whatever, right? The tariffs and the annexation threats and all of that. But this is a moment where we look to the American people and say, and you can see the Canadians are saying this, Europeans are saying this. The American people are doing all right. They're doing the right thing. They're taking a brave stand, a bold stand, a principled stand against a tyrant, and the tyrant is losing.